I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, January the 31st. Hard to believe we're already a month into the new year. Brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Been having big sales every week. Another big sale for the regular feeder cattle auction here on Monday. Expecting around 8,500 head of feeder cattle. And note on there, they're going to have lots of loads of yearlings, not just all calves. This Monday, so should be a lot of interest in those. You can view and bid that sale at dvauction.com, so tune in on there. They'll get started early here on Monday morning and start working on those cattle. If you've got cattle to market, you're looking for a place to send them, get a hold of them at Joplin Regional Stockyards. They've also got their primetime livestock video that they have regularly if you want to market your cattle right from home. Cattle inventory report, and they're not, I don't see them calling it that says much anymore. I don't know why they're not calling it inventory, they're just calling it the cattle report. But anyway, that's the inventory report that they have twice a year. They have it here, and that's for the year end or the start of the calendar year, and then they'll do it there in the summer for the mid-year report. But your cattle numbers are significantly lighter. We know that. You know, we don't have our average of the analyst guess per se like we do on the cattle on feed report, but Erner Berry still puts out an average of a few of their analysts there to kind of give you an idea where they're at, and then a lot of people look at that, and that's kind of what they're going to judge on whether they think it's a bullish report or a bearish report. But what we're kind of looking for here as this report comes out, we thought normally it comes out on a Friday afternoon, but apparently it's going to come out here on Monday afternoon because it was not out over the weekend. But all cattle and calves appear to be down about 1.2%. Calf crop is going to be down almost 1%. Beef cows down 1.4%. And we would sure think that the way they've been selling those beef cows and harvesting them, and as dry as it's been up in your big cow country up in the northern plains, man, they've sold a world of those cows, and then they've continued to bring good prices, and the cows are selling really well right now, and we continue to see them sell well even though we're seeing big runs. But that's kind of the way it is. But we're going to run out of them, guys, and we need to be keeping back some replacement heifers. The replacement heifers on hand down about 1.8%. Says, you know, we haven't had room to keep them, so we've been putting those on feed, and they've been harvesting a higher percentage of heifers than what is normal, and you know, we haven't been keeping them back. Your steer calves weighing over 500 pounds, down about 1.3%, and lightweight calves under 500 pounds, down just a little over 1%. But you know, it doesn't sound like a bunch, 1 or almost 2%, but it makes a difference. And in my kind of experience in this report, it seems like they're always a year or two behind. I don't think we're going to see the big drop off like we should right now, because likely while they were putting these numbers together is when the biggest part of them were falling off, especially on your beef cows, because they've been culling so hard and been selling so many of them. You know, a lot of those bean counters are pretty much oblivious to that, and they're just looking at the models that they tweak and use. But I think it's going to show significant lighter inventories of cattle of all classes, but I don't think it's really as light as what we are right now, and I think most people would agree with that that are looking at that. But you know, our numbers have they kind of took off and grew. We were falling on our numbers, and we fell until we got down to about 2013, 2014, and that's one reason that our markets got so high, our cattle markets. But then immediately after that, because that was kind of a artificial inflation of prices there, in 2015, we saw the market fall big, and then people took that opportunity to start building their herds, and they built back up until 2018, and then now they've been falling again. So, but we're getting down there where we're really light, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, because people are going to have to make the hard decision not to sell heifers and keep them back to start growing the herd again. But cattle are selling pretty well, and we like to complain about it all the time, but compared to historical values, cattle are selling really well right now, and they're going to get higher. We are on the upswing. We're going to be seeing higher prices as we go forward here through this year and probably the next 2 to 3 years. But and that's kind of what happens, is they see guys trying to grow their herds back because they had to sell so many cows, because we've seen major drought in a lot of our big cow countries. But and that's just going to make it even worse, or even tighter on numbers. But our market ready numbers of finished cattle are going to continue to be tight up at least through the first quarter, and probably well into the second quarter. And your packers are wanting to increase the change speeds. They need to build up their coffers. They need to build up the amount of product that they have in the freezers. And so they are wanting to get that done, as Omicron is really falling off big time. And just the fears of COVID are starting to ease up a little bit. We've seen our allies over in Europe have started to just let go of all their mandates, that then they were a lot worse than we were in some cases. But we're seeing that masks don't work. A lot of us kind of believed that all along. And social distancing doesn't really work. The best way to protect against it is if you've gotten it. And that's better than any combination of vaccines that they can try to force you to get. But this Omicron was a lot lighter variants of the COVID, and now it's kind of washing over, and people are getting more healthy and not as afraid to come to work. And so we're going to get this slaughter back on track probably this week, and then they'll get very aggressive and try to turn up the change speeds. And to do that with light numbers of market ready cattle, likely we're going to see a fat cattle market turn around here sometime in February. And your technicals, your squiggly lines on the charts, have a strong indicator saying that your February live cattle contracts are going to rally in February and get back up into the 140s. And we saw them kind of come back on Friday. But our market was down so hard to begin this past week because of that bearish cattle on feed report that was just mostly lighter weight feeders going on, because we didn't have any place to run them outside because it's been so dry in the plains. But nevertheless, it took the market down. It took all week to kind of gain back what we lost on Monday in your fat cattle arena, and ended up higher for the week. Feeder cattle, they were down hard on Monday, were higher every day the rest of the week, and still didn't gain it all back. But let's look at your board for last week. February live cattle futures, Monday was down that $1.60. Tuesday up 77, Wednesday up 95, Thursday off just 22 cents, and then Friday up 87, with February live cattle futures ending the week at 138.70. That was up 78 cents for the week. April was up big on Friday. It was up almost $1.50, up $1.47 on Friday. And your April contracts ended the week at 143.10, which sounds pretty good out there. And that was $1 higher than where they ended the previous week. March feeder cattle, Monday was down $1.80 on that so-called bearish cattle on feed report. Tuesday up 7 cents, Wednesday up 17, Thursday up 20, Friday up 12. Nothing very big, but up every day. And then March feeder cattle ended the week at 159.62, which was still down 65 cents for the week. April ended the week at 165.30, which was up $2. So we're seeing those premiums on our out front futures. We're going to see higher prices on cattle as we go forward, and our numbers are really tight, and we're going to get confirmation of that whenever this cattle report comes out here on Monday. Fat cattle trade up through Thursday last week, 62,100, which is a little better than the previous week, but still dismal. And our market was weaker. And we noticed it on your live sales. They were 50 cents to $1 lower on the spread. But dress sales exactly steady. I mean, exactly steady. You couldn't get them any more steady, which just goes to show there's no negotiation anymore in the market. Our cash market has gotten so thin that we don't even haggle anymore. It's just a one price deal. Here's your bid. If you want to sell them that way, you take it. You know, that's just the way it is. And so you see that. We need to get some minimum requirements of these packers to buy negotiated cattle so that we can have a little bit of haggle in there and get some price discovery. Who knows if the market's going to be that much higher, but still we can get some price discovery and find out what one's worth. Live sales last week up through Thursday on your fat steers and heifers, 135 to 139 in your 5-area feeding region. Weighted average on live steers, 136.93. That was roughly 50 cents lower than the same place last week. But dress sales, every dress sale of steer and heifer in the 5-area feeding region all week last week was 218. Now, how much negotiating is going on there? You know, they just 218, take it or leave it. And then the guys take it that want to sell something, and the others don't, and then they probably won't get contacted for a week or two because they didn't sell at what they offered them. You talk about a strong arm deal. How about Friday? We had a few more sales in every area, but not much. Iowa, 800 head on Friday, a little over 20,000 for the week. That's getting close to normal for them. 137 to 138. Live prices on Friday is all they had. Nebraska, 400 head on Friday, 23,200 head for the week. That's pretty light for Nebraska. Live sales only 136, and dress sales at 218. Like I said, everything was at 218. Kansas just had a couple loads of cattle on Friday, only 13,200 head for the week. Live sales late in the week on Thursday and Friday in the Southern Plains were 136 in Kansas. The bulk of the trade was earlier in the week at 137 in Kansas, but we lost that. So your market kind of ended up on the weak side last week as far as your direct fat cattle market. Texas had about 300 head confirmed on Friday, 7,100 head for the week, and they did have some haggling going on there because they did sell their live sales on Friday, some steers and heifers at 136.50. So whenever they start splitting hairs like that, goes to show you that there's a little bit of haggling going on there. Box beef cutout values, your weighted average for last week's, all of last week's sales, we've finally found a top. I thought we might get to $300 a hundred on your choice cutouts, but we didn't. We just got a little bit over 290, and it looks like we found some resistance there, and just seasonally they're probably going to settle back down for a little bit here. But your weighted average on all of last week's sales, choice cuts, 290.97. That was up just 10 cents a hundred, and your Friday afternoon sales were a little bit lower than that at 290.42. So we've found the resistance level there for cutouts, and they had been significantly higher every single day for almost 3 weeks there until the middle of this last week, and then they finally found some resistance. But select cuts, all of last week's weighted average, 282.07. That was actually up $1.99, so kind of closed the gap. Your choice select spreads under $9, $8.90. Late week or end of week sales on Friday afternoon were a little bit higher than the weighted average on selects at 283.41. just a decent movement there, 567 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter, I mentioned it there, it's getting back to normal, and I would say we'll get back to normal this week. We had a few days last week of 118,000 projected for the daily kill, and I think we'll get some days this week that are at 120 or better, and that's what normal is considered to be. Last week's slaughter, all of last week's slaughter totaled up 643,000. That's 7,000 more than the previous week. Still 13,000 less than the same week a year ago. Getting to the time of year they're really wanting to crank that up. But they could do more than they want to. The reason that we didn't fare a little better last week is because they didn't push the Saturday. We just had 57,000 on Saturday. That was 4,000 less than the previous week and 5,000 less than the same week a year ago. If they really wanted to push things, they could, but they're just not really stepping it up like we'd like for them to see. But let's talk about your feeder cattle markets, brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon, real-time index on DV auction. Late in the week there, at the end of the week, finished at 157.74. That was down $1.86 for the week, and that's just the kind of the way it was last week. Our yearlings and our big heavy feeders, and that's part of the reason that they're lower, especially when you get in the northern plains, because those bigger cattle weighing in the 8s are just big giant calves. So, you know, guys are getting ready to calve right now. We don't spring calve. Everybody winter calves. And I was up in Montana over the weekend and had a good talk there at Red Lodge, Montana. I had a good crowd and they really were into it, and we had a nice meeting there. Really enjoyed it. Met some people there that I'm gonna count as friends and learn some things myself talking to those people, which I always do when I go to those. But very interesting. But everybody's getting ready to start calving, and some of the guys are starting to calve. That's not spring calving, that's winter calving. And I told the guys, and it's harder for them because they do graze at elevation in the summertime and things like that. But we've got to do more fall calving, guys. We're just we're so lopsided, and that's what causes things to be so tough on us, trying to move all of our cattle at the same time of the year because we have them all at the same time. But guys try to get started calving as early as they can so they can have a big giant fat calf to sell at the same time as their neighbors. But on Tuesday, Lone Star Stockyards out here at Wildorado, Texas, just west of Amarillo, they're going to have their first in-house video. They've got a long string of yearling feeder cattle that they're going to sell on there. I'll give you some more information on our next visit here for Tuesday, and they won't sell those till early afternoon, I think. But you get on to dvauction.com and view that in-house video Bill Martin's having there at Lone Star Stockyards. But you look at your trends last week. Your bigger feeder cattle were sure $1 to $3 lower, at least, if not more than that. $1 to $3 lower on your bigger cattle, but calves still selling better. And of course, calves are a lot easier to straighten up now. Almost anywhere you've been, they've had some weather on them, and so they're a little bit more foolproof. And a higher percentage of the calves have been long time weaned and had at least 2 rounds of shots on them. So that helps too with your calf market. But calf market was really good, from $2 to $5 higher all over. And it's, in some places a lot more than that on the peewees. People are buying their grass cattle right now and have been for the last several weeks. But, they're not going to wait till March or April to buy the grass cattle that they want to turn out in April. No, they're buying them now. They're just going to kind of keep them alive, on a dry winter program until the early grass gets here, and then they'll turn those out, and those things will be ready to flat put the weight on. But look at some of the sales late in the week last week and over the weekend. How about Fort Scott, Kansas there? Fort Scott Livestock, and they had about 2,700 head, which is similar to the sale they had the previous week, and their trend was just like everybody else's. The bigger feeders weighing over 7 were kind of steady to $2 lower as I looked at the automated market report, Steer calves were $2 to $5 higher. Heifer calves were kind of mixed. But the highest, and they do always have some loads of big feeder steers. The highest 8-weight feeder steers they had was 150/650. Well, you know, a week or two ago and going back before that, you could get 160 for them all day long if you had the right kind. It was a square load. Well, our real-time index is now 157.75. That's a 7-day moving average. They just won't bring it anymore. Once in a while, you'll get one of those premium sales up there in Nebraska or somewhere, South Dakota, where you see a really slick load of 8-weight steers that'll bring 160, but for the most part, they won't do it anymore. And for the most part, those 8-weights are just big old calves. They're not the hard yearlings that guys really like to feed. How about another sale that's up there in Nebraska there, and right on the Yellow Brick Road, and one of our premium quality, premium market type sales, Burwell Livestock Market, 5,500 head there. Compared to 2 weeks ago, the last big feeder sale, similar trend, over 700 pounds, were steady to as much as $8 lower. Of course, that's a 2-week trend. And your lighter weight calves were as much as $10 or $11 higher. Look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you look at your best tested weights there. Had 1,052 head of 6-weight steer calves in Burwell. They averaged 640 pounds with a weighted average price of $184.39. Pretty smoky. Nearly 1,000 head of 7-weight steer calves in Burwell. Average 745 with a weighted average price of $165.24. And look at here, if you don't think that these 8 weights are cheaper, Burwell, Nebraska, 615 head of 8-weight feeder steers. A lot of them be big calves, but they'd be fancy, with a weighted average price of 835 pounds, or weighted average weight. Weighted average price was only $156.32. So, I mean, they're quite a bit cheaper. Some of our best quotes late last week or over the weekend. One of them was Burwell. Burwell Livestock Market sold 90 head of fancy 606-pound steer calves at $204.50. Wow. But the best quote that I saw anywhere late last week, and your National Beef Wire top quote for the day, come out of Winter Livestock Auction in Winter, South Dakota. 4 loads, 792 pounds on the average. Steers in Winter, South Dakota bring $176. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.